This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up and welcome to Hot Takes, a show where I take your hot takes from YouTube and answer them here in video format. A ton of hot takes to get into, a ton of comments to get into. We've been putting in that work on the content side. So let's see what the comments looking like, the feedback looking like. Deshaun Watson needs to be boring. Troy Stevens says this: once Deshaun Watson experiences how much fun it is to win consistently without running around and getting physically crushed, he'll go to that next level. I believe this will happen, especially when Mr. Chubb returns. This is one thing that, like, I sometimes get pushback, especially from the Watson people who came from Houston or Clemson, is I truly think there's so much more to unlock from Deshaun Watson when he's disciplined in the pocket versus when he's making all of those exciting plays. Like, I truly believe that the more boring version of Deshaun Watson, that's more of a pocket passer, is a better version of Deshaun Watson. Like, still capable of breaking the sack, still capable of making a throw on the run, still capable of scrambling, but relying on his ability in the pocket. Because I think the strength of Deshaun Watson, from what I've seen from him at Clemson and Houston, and now from a little bit in Cleveland, is that he is a very smart football player and a very accurate thrower downfield when he trusts his pocket. And if he can lean into that more, I see not only a more sustainable style of quarterback play, I see a more successful style of quarterback play. Because when I think of Deshaun Watson's best moments as a Cleveland Brown, they usually come from the pocket. You know, the second half of Baltimore, most of that came within the pocket. The Tennessee game came within the pocket. The Arizona game came from within the pocket. That's where I want Deshaun Watson to be. Not because he's not capable of doing anything else. He most certainly is. But I think he is much better than people give him credit for. And honestly, at his best at this point of his career, when he's just committed to that pocket and making something shake in that pocket. Next question, this ain't Q&A. The next hot take comes from Benny, who says, I'm glad you broke it down like this. Completely accurate. Boring sounds bad, but it means responsible and disciplined, and we get a good enough roster that he just needs to be smart. And I also think boring gets a bad rap, because when I say Deshaun Watson needs to be boring, whether I clarify it or not, there's going to be a lot of people in their head that hear the word boring, associate it with quarterback, and think, oh, Kirk Cousins, check down. That's not what I'm saying for Deshaun Watson. I'm not saying that Deshaun Watson needs to instinctively take the check down. I'm just saying Deshaun Watson should play more within the structure of the offense. It's going to look a little bit boring. It's going to be nice little chunk here, chunk there, right? It doesn't mean just throwing the ball short all the time. You're going to have big throws in there. But it does mean that the more spectacular athletic feat stuff, you're probably going to have less of. And that's all I'm saying when I'm saying he needs to be boring. Is just play within the structure of the offense, stay in that pocket, and make the throws I know he's capable of making, because I've seen him make some incredible throws within the pocket on a consistent basis, both here and in Cleveland. The next, well, not here in Cleveland, Houston and in Cleveland. The Book of Kenny, people really don't understand how simple yet effective it is for the quarterback to take what the defense gives him. Watching Watson in the second half of the Ravens game, it was like everything clicked for him. He understood that he didn't need to play hero ball that he had in Houston. He can give us the version of that, or even in the Tennessee game, and they will make a deep playoff run for sure. We forget about this because the game has changed so much. But the number one role of a quarterback is to be a facilitator, not necessarily a playmaker. You want a quarterback who could play make for sure, definitely in this era, the NFL. But the number one role of a quarterback is a facilitator. You got to think of him like a point guard. It's nice that your point guard can score 30. But name me the NBA teams outside of the Golden State Warriors, who are absolutely loaded around the point guard position. Name me the NBA teams that can win a championship off the strength of their point guard being their best scorer. like maybe Isaiah Thomas, and that's it. It's nice that a quarterback can play make, but what a quarterback needs to do is be a facilitator first. And that's what he did in that game. Oh, they can't stop David Njoku? Let me just feed David Njoku. That's facilitating, right? That's the number. Sometimes quarterbacks get too caught into being the playmaker, being the guy, that they forget that that's not the number one role of the quarterback. The number one role of the quarterback is to facilitate. Get the ball to the person who's going to be open. Get the ball to the guy who's hot right now. Have a good feel for that. That's what Deshaun needs to do. He doesn't need to go out there and score a metaphorical 30 points on defenses every night. It'd be nice if he did, but he doesn't have to do that, and that might not be the best path for the Browns to win long term. But if he can go out there and throw some assists and get a double-double every night, well, then the Browns going to be eating good. That's really what you need out of Watson this year. The next video we're going to take comments from is 5 Browns I'm hyped about. Lord of Knack says, just became apparent the 6 a.m. feeds are better with Q around. You know, this is why I do it, man. Shout out to you, and congratulations for becoming a parent. It's I have never became a parent, but I could imagine that it's a monumental thing in life, and I'm glad that I can help make the early days of parenting much easier, or a little bit easier for you, just giving you something to watch at 6 a.m. So definitely appreciate that. Love comments like that. The next comment, Rub Sam says, I'm excited also for Jerome Ford. He did pretty good last year considering the situation. New running back, coach, and system. He could break out, especially as a receiving back. I hate that he dances behind the line, but hopefully he's coached up on that from last season. Go Browns. And I think a better blocking performance from the offensive line will kind of solve that issue too for Jerome Ford, that I do agree popped up. Sometimes he was a bit indecisive, and I think the issue isn't that he dances around back there. The issue is that he just needs to be a little bit more decisive when he is. And when he is decisive, he's pretty good downhill. Face Disabler says this: if Joker does what he did in Texans game over a 17-week period, forget all pro, he could get defensive player of the year. He could be one of the best linebackers in the NFL. I thought that was a possibility for him coming out of Notre Dame. Look, I love JOK. I think JOK has become a tremendous player for the Cleveland Browns. But make no mistake, I don't think JOK has reached his potential yet. I think he has so much more to scratch there as a player. I mean, like, I think he can be the second best player on this defense in a couple of years, depending on what happens to Denzel Ward. And it might not even be that Denzel Ward has a fall off. It just might be that, you know, JOK balling like that. So I really am high on JOK. I really enjoy what JOK has been able to do, but I think there's so much more for JOK to unlock. And I think this is the season that we see it, where he becomes one of the best players in the NFL at his position group. We'll see how it goes there. The next comment comes from Mitt, who says 2 players I think everybody else sleeps a bit on are Alex Wright and Isaiah Maguire. A. Wright could prove this year that he can be a good defensive end 3. His way of playing is unique, very nice in the run game. The other one is where I was very surprised in rewatching the preseason games, is Maguire. He is great in destroying the play and the blocking of the offensive tackle or offensive guard. The problem of him overshooting the gap could be at the wrong place time for sack and tackle. So he kind of has weird movements to get a sack. Tackle doesn't get it. The potential is there and is underrated. I could see A. Wright having a developmental type season. I agree with that. I think Alex Wright especially is much better than people give him credit for over the last couple of years. The only issue with Alex Wright is the Browns' edge room is so defined and so stacked that I don't know how much opportunity there's going to be for Alex Wright. Like, I think the only spot for him is behind Miles, or playing cleanup behind Miles, because they usually like to bring Obo in for Za'Darius. Maybe getting some 3-tech work in early in the season, depending on how they feel about Mike Hall. But, you know, he kind of just has to get his play wherever he can get it, and it's not really catered towards him, so you're not going to see the best out of him. And I think that's the only reason that he hasn't really broken out yet. It's because he hasn't gotten a great opportunity to do so, because he kind of has to come in and clean up duty to fill other people's roles and not necessarily play a role that's really defined towards his skill set. This is when the Browns had 100% healthy on their practice report. JT Hiller says, can somebody please explain to me why Dwan Jones isn't starting at right or left tackle right now? Dude was fired last season, especially in pass production. This is where I urge patience. One, we don't know if Dwan can flip from left to right. What we do know is that Dwan had a really strong season at right tackle. And for me, I am okay letting this go for 3 years. And what I mean by this is, first, I want to see if Dwan Jones can be a great right tackle, right? Similar to Tristan Wirfs. The idea was we're going to see him at right tackle for 3 years. If he's there, we'll move him over, right? Let's see what Dwan Jones does at right tackle this year. If he gets even better than he was last year, improves, dominates, then next year you can talk about, okay, we'll see what's in the draft. If there's a left tackle you really like, you can keep Dwan at right and you draft a new left tackle. Or if it's a strong right tackle class, but not a strong left tackle class, now you can say, hey, Dwan's had 2 years. He's going into his third. He feels really comfortable at right tackle. You know, we feel like he's reached his development points that we feel like are necessary at right tackle. Now let's teach him to be good at left tackle and put him there this season and then draft somebody to be right tackle. Let this take some time here, right? Dwan's only had 1 year under his belt. Let him get at least 2 under his belt before we talk about flipping him. If he can flip and you play him at left tackle, I think that's a possible solution for next year. But I think we're talking about next year or 2026, right? For Dwan Jones possibly playing left tackle. And we got to see. Some people can flip and play left tackle. Some people can't. It's really just random. Who can do it well and who can't. And it's not really even based on athleticism as much as it's just based off of coordination, right? And like the ability to be ambidextrous. What the Cowboys think about the Browns. This is a great collaboration I did with Footz the King from the Cowboys. He does a great channel covering the Cowboys. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check out Footz the King. And shout out to Vach for giving me the recommendation for him because I needed somebody to come in and talk Cowboys, and he did an excellent job doing it, man. My man does great work there. So make sure you check out Footz the King for sure. Mark says, great guest. Thank you for joining. Browns fans know how to be humble and cautiously optimistic while also being honest with themselves. Most other teams fans don't know how to do that. So it's very nice to see a guy from another team look at it fairly and logically. You know, when I look for these guests for other teams, it's real easy to find the people who are going to give you good stuff from their team, because there's a lot of people out there who, and I'm not saying this is bad. Let me be clear here, because I don't want to sound like I'm some kind of purist and I'm just like hoity-toity about football. But there's a lot of people who love their football team and then they like football because their favorite team plays football, you know? And then there are people who love football and happen to have a favorite team. Like, I love football. I will watch this shit in the spring. I will watch it on Fridays. I will watch out of state high school football if it's on TV. I will watch college, FCS, you name a I watch 5-on-5 flag football. Like, I can kind of tell you what's going down in that scene because that's how much football. I love football. I grew up in Cleveland. I am a Browns fan and I love the Browns, but football is the thing that I love. And when you love football that way, you got to pay your respects to the game and you can't lie to the game. There's no fun in talking about football if you're just going to lie about it, right? But if you're somebody who doesn't really watch football outside of your favorite team or the team you cover playing it, then then it's going to be more biased analysis, because the reason you are there is not for the purity of the sport. It's because you want to say my team's bigger than your team, if you feel what I'm saying there. So when I look for these guests, I look for people who I can obviously tell love ball. And once I know that, I know I could talk to you about your favorite team, because if you love ball, you can't cheat the game. I love the Browns, but sometimes y'all be frustrated because I'm like, hey man, some of y'all want the Browns to do this. I'm like, we can't cheat the game. That's not gonna be good, and I can't recommend it, right? And y'all want me to recommend it. It's just about loving the game more than you just love an individual team, because that's what brings me to the table. Is football itself. I love the Browns. Don't get me wrong. But I love football. Like, again, y'all see me tweet. I be tweeting about all different kinds of football. Like, the only kind of football I don't watch is the CFL, and that's just because it's too long, to be honest with you. Homebred, sorry, ain't your name, but I'm just call you Homebred, homie. I'm so glad you said that. Now, he's referring to me talking about Deshaun Watson not having to be the best player on the team. Yo, Q, can I ask how he feels about Deshaun Watson after that game? I bet my bottom dollar that Deshaun Watson being the best QB on the field after the game, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott would be proven on national TV Sunday. Can't wait. Yeah, we'll see. I think this game's going to come down to the fourth quarter, and whatever quarterback has a better game in the fourth quarter is going to win this game. And the one thing I can say I know about Deshaun Watson is that his fourth quarter performance has been high. I mean, you talked to Deshaun Watson about this, and if you ask Deshaun Watson, I know this because I saw a clip of his podcast where he said that he puts himself on Mount Rushmore when it comes to pressure performers in sports. Not just football and sports. That's what Deshaun Watson thinks of himself in the fourth quarter, and if that's who he thinks he is, then he's got to live up to that. But I will say it has been backed up with what his performance has been in the fourth quarter. Last year, especially, he was pretty good in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, I think if this comes down to a fourth quarter game, I kind of like Deshaun Watson in that scenario. God says, oh, he don't even know about Emerson. See, that's the thing. That's the thing. Martin Emerson is the great unknown that people discover when they play the Cleveland Browns. And it's always interesting to see people discover just how good Martin Emerson is. Because if you look at like some of the EPA per play stuff or the raw numbers or like the PFF grade, you're going to look at Martin Emerson and think he's the third corner on the team. I don't think a lot of people realize that's the best corner on this team outside of Denzel Ward. And then it happens and then they understand it by the end of it. But yeah, it's one of them things where you just got to learn about Martin when it happens. Hopefully Martin holds up and lets them know, because a lot of times Martin is good for that. But that's it, y'all. Thank you for watching. Have a great time. Appreciate the hot takes in the comments. Make sure you leave comments down below. Have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.